Yeah, now we're recording.
Great, okay, thank you. So I'd like to call the meeting to order at 1:01 and ask for a moment of reflection. Thank you. I'm going to read the Indigenous Acknowledgement Statement. We would like to begin our meeting by recognizing the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples of Canada as traditional stewards of the land. The municipality is located within the boundary of Treaty 18 region of 1818, which is the traditional land of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wyandot peoples. So the next item is approval of the agenda. I know that Joanne requested that we add votes to the agenda. Just for, well, anyway, she asked for it to be on the agenda, so let's put it on under F2. And we can put it on as only number 4. Hey, Joanne.
There, sorry.
I would know it's okay. We're just on the agenda. Just on the agenda, and I was adding the votes because you asked for it in an email.
I think the question was answered.
Was it?
So,
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. Okay, so we don't need to do that. Take that back on. Okay, in which case,
Do we have a moment to discuss the presentation Monday or?
Or sorry, Catherine.
before or after the meeting?
I just mean, like, are we expected to be there at council on Monday and what time and?
I would say yes, and 9:30 would be.
The deputations were moved to the
Oh,
afternoon.
were they?
I think they're starting in closed session, so I was told at 2 PM is around the time deputations will start. And there are a couple before me, just as an FYI.
But 2 PM would be fine if people showed up then.
If not, I can always just send a quick email, like, what we're looking at.
Yeah, if it's delayed to like Tuesday, that would be good to know.
I'll let you know, yeah.
In terms of format, is it just the presentation, there's not like a Q&A afterwards, or?
They may ask questions,
Okay.
but it would be,
5-minute it's a 5-minute deputation, correct?
I believe it's 10.
Usually get 10, but I was gonna ask that you have more time than 10.
Yeah,
And what's the latest it could possibly go?
so hard to say. I don't know how long the other presentations will be.
Like the end of the day, you mean?
Yeah,
Well, they've been trying to really stick towards ending the day at 4:30, because our meetings have gone, for the last 2 years have gone way too long. And we've got staff, we've got, people that need to do, so they're really pushing to try and be done at 4:30. Whatever gets done, or doesn't get done, gets moved to the next agenda. Which is what we did last time, so hopefully that helps.
Okay, so my question is there any changes to the agenda? And if not, I need a mover and seconder to approve it. So I see Julia, Scott, and Sean. Again, mine. So, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. That approves the agenda. Any declaration of accumulating interest in general nature there? Seeing none. Thank you. We have a series of reports to receive. They are the action plan update for October, the accessibility feasibility report, the IDEA committee update, regional provincial committees report, CEO service update for October, Q3 financials, and the 2025 draft budget. May I have a mover and seconder, please? Chris? Joanne? Thank you. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Minutes of the previous meeting. Are there any additions, corrections? only thing I've noticed is that the numbering system has on the version I saw. But it's been corrected. Yes, great.
So I had one question. It was down at the bottom where we were talking about the audit. There was a comment that questions were going to be to the town treasurer. Did any go to the town treasurer?
I didn't receive any questions, but that offer still stands. So if anyone does have questions that they want me to submit to the treasurer, I'm happy to do it.
I was not able to open the link you sent. I don't know. I'm looking forward to the meeting. So I went into SharePoint. But I don't have the budget. I have the Q3 financials.
Are you on the board packages for October?
It's, if you go to the budget report letter, it's under that. You follow
Okay,
down.
so hopefully I have it and reviewed it because. All right. Oh, budget and cover letter, of course I have it.
Yeah, and then if you go down on
Yeah,
that.
I did, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So any
I actually
changes?
had
Joanne?
just a comment, it's more for clarity over time, in page 4, when we're talking about the board evaluation process. The way it reads to me, it reads as if we are doing the CMHA questionnaire, not that, I just think an explanation, the CMHA questionnaire was reviewed and agreed to use as a template. Because otherwise, for some reason, we're doing the
Well, we did
CMHA
use it.
board, like, it's really just the grammar. Just to be clear that we're using it as a template, as opposed to, we're actually using, we're giving our board evaluation to the CMHA.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Like, yeah, it was shortened and nicely shortened, but I just think it's just a clarity about
The
it.
board will use that questionnaire to conduct their own.
Or as a
So
template.
just say the
or to
CMHA
reference.
questionnaire template will
Yeah.
be transposed to digital
Yeah.
survey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. It's easy.
Okay,
They're great.
anything else? Okay, looking for a mover and seconder to approve the minutes of September 19. Carol and, yes, and I saw Sean.
Oh, sorry.
Yes,
I did find one thing under the BPML resolution 2024 on page 4.
I saw that in SharePoint.
Oh, you saw.
I will
you
fix
saw-
it.
Okay,
So it's
Just a
changing
typo.
audited to audit, right?
yeah, thanks.
so with those changes, all in favor? Great, thank you very much. So communications, no deputations, nobody here for public input, no correspondence. So we will move on to the F1, which is the action plan update for October. So, any questions, comments from the board, anything I want to highlight? Jen? Go ahead, Julia.
I'm still confused over the meaning of the older adult programs.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, the totals do not include, like, the comment didn't, I couldn't understand the comment.
I've kept that in there from the beginning, just so that it's clear that the number we're reporting is programs that are specifically targeted to seniors, but a lot of our adult programs, naturally, we will get seniors who attend those as well.
Of course,
Yeah, so that's all that I meant by putting that comment in.
okay, I didn't understand that, the way that comment was written, but I guess it doesn't matter if we understand the measures. Are you clear, Carol?
Well, I had more questions around just the actual number. So the 152. That's for all of 2023?
Yeah.
And then, so the 85 as of October 7th. So my question was, are we on track to? Because the measure is to increase it, isn't it? The goal is to increase that. It doesn't look like we're on.
Yeah,
track to-
the interesting thing though is that even though the programs are a little bit lower, we've actually had more participants already this
I
year.
saw that. So I see the bottom one as success, but the top one.
But that's because I would argue that's probably because earlier this year, we started ensuring people signed in to seniors fitness.
Oh, yeah, you
And we
mentioned.
were closed for
And we were
August.
closed for like way longer than we were the previous year. We shouldn't have. It wasn't great. So it was closed for 6 weeks, right? Just because of
All
whatever.
different things, but holidays and sickness.
So we can't really claim we're doing better. It's just better data collection. Unless there's other programs.
Are you saying people didn't wanna come if they had to sign in?
No, people just got lazy and weren't signing in. And I said, well, this is ridiculous. I'm looking at numbers that show there's hardly anybody there and
The room's
we
full.
can't get in.
Yeah.
Is it not possible just to do a head count rather than have people sign in, so we don't miss numbers?
Nobody takes that responsibility at the present time.
And not everybody signs in still.
No.
Yeah, you become late or.
Could you not ask your leader to just do a head count?
We could.
Submit
Head
it?
out, see if it works.
Yeah.
I don't wanna take the responsibility because I might not be there every week.
Yeah.
so.
We could ask Denise to do that.
That makes sense.
One of us could count for her and just
Now,
say.
so wasn't there a counter on the room that everybody that walks in, that there's a count?
We do have a people counter in the gallery. But like the amount of traffic that's in and out of there, it'd be really hard. Like we wouldn't commit to monitoring that number after every meeting, program, and
Yeah.
event. That would just be
Okay.
too much.
So back to the question though. So we're at 85. And yes, we're reaching more older adults, which is great. I'm just curious, between October, November, December, are we close to hitting 100, like in terms of the planned number of programs? Are we?
I
Well,
wanna say no.
no,
So do we put a rationale in there as to why then we've got the 85 when our initial goal was to exceed the 152?
I can do that.
Do you know what?
Why there have been less? Not right now, no.
well, we do.
Well, that's only one program, there might be other things, maybe there's
Yeah.
not as many, education sessions that the senior
Yeah.
programs.
What were you saying, Julia, you know?
Well, the person who teaches it, who's lovely, wonderful, and an excellent teacher, she has times where she has to cancel.
Okay. So, but is the program the number of actual unique programs, or is
No.
it just the number of
Sessions.
sessions? Okay.
But that's still important. And I
It
think
is.
digging in is really important, because if it is because, for example, we have more community, more people have booked the space, and so library programs or sessions are limited because we have more people who have booked things, who knows? But understanding why is, what those dynamics are. Again, back to space. Yeah, I think it's, something to know.
But it also could mean we need, like, if we're talking fitness, maybe we need a good backup, which we don't have at the moment. So that even though she took the month off for vacation, which is perfectly valid, maybe the program should still run with somebody else. We put all our eggs into one basket at the present time.
Is that a library program?
Kind of, yes. We pay the instructor.
And just, Denise mentioned last week that, and this would be great, because I've been concerned about it for a while, that, you're thinking of putting in a registration process, for seniors fitness. Now, she would prefer not to do that, but, she mentioned she'd been talking to, yeah. So that would help, because then you would have better numbers, you know what I mean, like you know how many people.
Not necessarily, because you might register for the program but not show up. Like I know at Focus, we all have registered in 1 million activities, but you don't go every week necessarily.
Right, but it would be a better figure to, you know,
So I guess the outstanding question really is, why are the programs
Lower.
lower when we're trying to actually increase?
I can look into that for the next meeting.
And we ever defined that program is actually a count of sessions,
We did last meeting, yes.
not, but we don't put it anywhere, because I guess I ask this question every time, because in my mind, program is a unique program.
I know that Jen's using the terminology from the ministry.
Okay,
And that's-
okay.
Remember that?
Okay, I'm gonna note in my head, don't ask again.
But in the comment above, it says number of programs hosted and number of sessions. So,
Okay.
so we already have a conflict there.
That just needs to be removed.
Okay.
Maybe in brackets, just put programs, brackets, sessions.
Yeah, do it, yeah,
That we know they're the same thing.
and then maybe I'll read the top part too next time.
Any other questions or comments on the action plan?
Yes.
Go ahead. What's your next one?
If we go down to the, Craig Lee, the film of the Craig Lee Station,
Can you give us a number?
ES 1.1.
Great, thank you.
I know we've had this before and we've had a discussion on it before, but I just wondered, since this action plan is public, would we want to put some wording as to why the decision was to go with the Craig Lee and why we're not going to be able to, get it done in 2024? If you don't think it's good,
I could include that in the cover letter of the update that comes to the next meeting.
no, I'm thinking more, because this is public and if someone's reading it, do we want to put in there that, like, why did we switch again? You couldn't get the time for the ski train one, or?
It was finding enough people to interview.
Okay,
That's what the issue was. The filming has started, but it won't be released until the new year because of that delay.
I have another question.
Go ahead, Joanne.
The, CH 1.2 about reducing barriers to underserved and marginalized individuals. The last line, we say participate in a physical audit of land spaces. Is that the same, is that the accessibility audit, or is that a separate audit? Looking at different,
I would consider the accessibility report as the audit of Ellie Shore, and then my intention is when the museum's closed, and I'll be helping reorganize the collection in the basement, I'll use a similar matrix to evaluate that space too, to make it comprehensive of both branches.
It's not intended to be purely an accessibility audit, though, I don't think.
No.
So are you looking at it from, oh no, I'm sorry, you're wrong. No, under this heading, it is purely accessibility. Apologies.
I had a question on OE 1.2. The comment section. So these are sessions for staff?
Yes,
So did they attend good governance, or are you counting yourself there?
I'm also counting myself.
Okay, I mean, I kind of saw that as more of a, yeah, okay, that's fine, because we've exceeded the 5 anyway, so.
Yeah,
Any other questions?
yeah, I have a couple more. Just out of curiosity, what is the, going on water, what is that? Oh yeah, what is the journey of water?
Yes, 1.1,
The movie, the real, you mean?
the real history, the journey of water.
Isn't it like Paddle to the Sea?
I think it's, well, I know the intention for that film is to talk about, actually, I don't know if I can give a very accurate summary. I'd actually rather speak with the museum curator and I can get like a a
I mean, I'm just curious.
good
If-
description.
Yeah,
Did I just date myself with the passion of the sea?
I didn't know where you were going with that one.
Okay, I dated myself, okay.
Yeah, there've been a few roadblocks with that particular film, so I'm not confident in accurately describing all of the content, but I do know we're working on also getting an Indigenous perspective to for next year for that film, but I will make note of that.
okay, and also we didn't, I know you said that the Craigslist one isn't gonna be done this year, but you said filming had started, but what was the delay?
The weather.
Oh, the weather, okay.
Yeah, they need to get a lot of winter shots. And last, yeah,
Yeah,
so that was the first delay for that film.
Okay, I have more stuff. Expand digital literacy and competency in the community, 2.1. What is that one?
ES 2.1, it's right on the same page.
Yes, 2.1.
Any question?
The line was you had 19 programs, 720 participants as of June 30th. So the measure was to increase. So where were we at last year at this time, and are we in a position to increase?
I can get that number for you. I want to say yes.
It doesn't sound too definitive.
Maybe splitting hairs, but the objective was to expand literacy, not expand the number of programs.
Yeah.
So,
it's reaching more people, that's the goal.
Yeah. mhm.
Yeah.
So then my question is it? Then,
Well,
We-
it
we
still
just-
is, what was our base number, so we know what comparison, you're
Yeah.
right.
I don't have that number right now either, so I'll have to include that in the cover letter for next meeting.
okay,
Anything else?
oh, yeah, I want to talk about the board conference we went to, that was in OE.
1.3.
1.3.
I was thinking that we might address that question when we do the board evaluation, because part of that was to identify training. And it should come out in that whether anyone's taken any training.
But we don't have any. We don't say anything about the status at all in here, we just have the measure.
Okay, has anybody taken any training this year?
I tried to and then couldn't find the login.
I haven't been sent a recording either.
Seems to me some people did Volt training.
Was that?
Oh,
this
yes.
year? That was this
Yeah.
year.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
So-
Yeah, I did that.
So I guess this is for us to report back to Jen so that we can update the.
Yeah.
Chart, and I guess we haven't done that as well.
Yeah, but we can do some of it right now. So we have Volt, at least 2 people did it. I think Julie and Joanne.
Yeah.
Marie, you've been to some things.
I'm going, online November, so there was one that Jen, what is it I'm representing? There's a group that I'm in and I have a meeting.
The board
on-
The
assemblies.
board, yeah.
So I wasn't able to go to the first one, but I read the slides, and there's another one coming up, I think it's early, the first week of November.
And what were the sessions on, do you recall? Because I know you did one in the spring. You did the follow-up by watching all the slides.
Yes. Check my notes. Basically, it was kind of an introductory one section, and it wasn't really, just kind of setting up the purpose for the group.
Okay,
Would we count the IT stuff that I did online as training?
La, 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 I don't wanna talk about that.
okay.
Behind.
But we
Oh,
also,
were you supposed to do it? Did it come to you?
Subject.
Oh, yeah, okay, I did it.
that was a SharePoint one?
No, it was,
The fraud one?
IT security, I had to go through, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I guess we all did that.
I would,
Because you're obliged to do it.
I'm not sure I did. I know I didn't.
there's an outstanding one for me to get in there and do it.
Should do it, it's good. It helps you for your own emails too.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. it's been-
Fishing and all that.
Oh, yeah.
It's actually very helpful.
Yeah.
If I didn't do it, they would kind of remind me.
Sure, and the other one is a SharePoint.
Oh, yeah.
We have coming up in November. So,
Yeah.
And don't forget, but I'm not sure this counts because we were both on it. The development
yeah,
charges.
The development charges. Oh.
I'm not sure I actually learned anything.
But it gave us exposure to the thinking behind development charges.
Yeah, we
Was that
did
just
attend,
here?
Joanne and I.
Yeah.
That's just was it a webinar? It was a webinar.
They were presenting, I don't know if it was training per se, but that's
We
what,
were sharing the new structure.
yeah.
Oh,
It was Julie and I and all the developers.
Oh.
Okay.
Joanne was brave enough to attempt a question.
I don't know if that's training or just.
Yeah.
There was also, on National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, Joanne, you participated in the Wawate screening, which we look at that as an educational opportunity.
Oh, well, I definitely learned. That was awesome.
I really want to.
And Truth and Reconciliation is built into our strategic plan.
Is anybody looking at there's a conference, online conference that OLS is putting on, or the OLA next week? Has anyone seen that and are thinking of attending anything?
We have a staff member attending, but I could circulate that to the board.
Sure. Yeah.
Um,
If you've signed up under Learn HQ, you'll get notices like this automatically.
We did sign up, so I probably have been.
From being the other, along with everything else.
And anyway, I think all of that to say that we have hit our minimum.
Yeah,
Okay.
So I'm-
Yeah, okay, but we should report on that.
yeah, we should.
Yeah. Anything else under the
Yeah,
action?
and then I had, this is my last one, under 2.3. We have a number of policies updated, introduced, and in progress. I thought we had reviewed all the policies. I thought that was a complete.
So I'll include the number of policies that were reviewed, but those were only, what's the term in our multi-year agenda? That wasn't every single library policy. So those could be included, but there are a few that I've noticed, where there's sort of the she, her language that can, or her, him kind of thing, that can be removed from a couple of more easily.
Don't include that in this count, that's pretty.
Don't include it?
Yeah,
That's not really changing the intent of the
Yeah,
policy at all.
yeah.
Well, but it's removing gendered language, which is part of, our commitment to IDEA.
Okay, well then, but yeah, let's talk about updating language. So you'll add a number to this later on.
Yes,
So will that ever have a complete then, or?
yes, it'll be complete by the end of the year,
Okay,
definitely.
okay. And then I was really excited to see that the signage was complete, but I have to go see what it looks like.
Actually, one of the signs fell, I need to put it back up, but yeah, both municipal and library signs are up.
That's excellent.
Okay, anything else under action plan? Great, thank you. So then we're moving on to, the, community hubs pillar, and the first report is the accessibility feasibility report. And I guess my main question, I think it showed us on an email as well, but, so what's the next step? How does this relate to budget? How do we set priorities? What's the town versus?
So Phil and I still need to meet to go over it thoroughly together, but there will definitely be part of the capital budget next year. The town's capital budget will help with some of the improvements. It's just a matter of us prioritizing and identifying what can be done. When I was building the 2025 draft budget, I did include the circulation desk again as a priority, simply because that is our first point of access. And it's been a major capital project that's been on our budget for multiple years, and we haven't been able to complete that. The second part is it's inside of the building, so that's our responsibility. So it's really just a matter of Phil and I going through and identifying what can actually be done in 2025 through the town's budget. There are some minor things that we can address that didn't need to be included in the budget. Stuff like clutter or improving wayfinding or any sort of signage, that kind of thing. It's kind of all captured in our budget anyway. So
But what about the the major stuff, like the bathroom and,
The parking lot.
Yeah,
And the.
parking.
yeah, will that be done in 2025? Probably not. But the good thing is that we can also use this report now to help strengthen the grant applications that we submit, whether it's through Trillium or if there's another infrastructure fund we can apply to. We now have this additional report that really will.
But I thought we were going to use it to demonstrate we needed like a rehaul and expansion on this site too.
There's a lot of ways we can
Yeah.
use it. It's just a matter of where we're successful and what happens.
But it is more ammunition, so it
Yes.
should certainly help support our case for need for expansion and redevelopment.
Is this something
Yeah.
that we can be presenting to council? Or maybe doing something jointly with, I don't know, how would it come to council in terms of the space issue for us, but also relationship to the whole accessibility issue?
My thinking was once the results of the MRFA are out, we can kind of strategize then too, because, maybe the results won't be a very compelling case for us, and then our accessibility report becomes sort of the last piece of the puzzle, and it's really important, and it could help. But yeah, I've sort of just been sitting back and waiting for what happens with the MRFA. And again, Phil and I still have to meet to go through the report together too.
And what were we going to when we were thinking of the bulk presentation? The message was, look what the library is doing for you, and then we were going to come back and say, in the context of MRFA, look at the shortcomings that the library has, and this is what we need to move forward, and we were thinking that December-ish.
We had said, I think in the project charter, we talked about December, but I guess it's all kind of tied with MRFA and trying to strategies and
Yeah.
time things appropriately.
And I do in the last or second last slide of the presentation, it's sort of what are the next steps, and both the accessibility report, reviewing it, and the results of the MRFA are sort of listed. So I'll frame it as what we were talking about today. What are the next steps? We need to kind of reevaluate those reports and how it fits into the message that you already delivered to council last November.
Yeah. This is really this accessibility reporting. The more often we can reference the fact that there are significant gaps. So
Yeah.
the meeting on Monday where we talk about, we'll look at it, but I think, we've seen the results you're gonna meet, but we know there are significant gaps, and members of our community are not able to, are missing out. because of These gaps.
It's the
I
bad.
feel like it's a really important, even just like that headline statement about there are big gaps.
Yeah.
In terms of that is, again, what they need to hear numerous times.
Yeah, I agree with
It's all nice that we need space, but here's a factual.
it's a human right.
Requirement that we're calling on.
I thought that in the report, I thought that the consultants did a really good job explaining that, some of the deficiencies of this building, it might not be, we're not meeting the minimum requirements. We're not doing anything illegal, but the report explains why that legislation is like, that's the minimum. So you don't just check it off and you're done. And that I think also needs to be really clearly articulated to council as well.
Because we're not meeting them.
Well,
We
are, but that doesn't say much.
But the bathroom, we're not.
No,
we are meeting the minimum requirements, but we don't have a universal accessible washroom, which was identified
Yeah.
in the report.
I guess I took away that we were definitely valuing.
There are a couple smaller things that we can do in terms of, I don't know what they're called, but they're like the support bars. In the accessible stalls, there are a few things that can be moved so that, but I mean, are we meeting the minimum requirement? Yes, but that doesn't say a lot.
That should never be your goal.
No,
No.
no, and that's where I thought the report did a really great job explaining, you know, you can meet the minimum requirements of the AODA and the building code, but are you an inclusive, accessible space? Clearly not. So what does that say about also the legislation? But there's a lot of ways we can connect that back to even the town's future story, like if you have this commitment to idea even, and you don't want to use this legislation as, well, we're doing what we're supposed to be, because you're not really.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways we can incorporate this document into future discussions, whether it's about expansion or even pushing for certain capital projects to go through. Grants too, so.
Well, it's nice because it's a different set of eyes than ours. It's not an internal document. It's
Yes.
external. So that to me puts some weight behind it. And I think we should be using it every which way we can, because everybody's got a short-term memory issue, and the more we can hit them with it, the better off. There's always gonna be new pressures coming from everywhere, so we have to make sure we're still there.
Yep, the consultant that even conducted the site assessment too lives with a disability. Which even, like the person that's actually assessing our facility has lived experience, which just adds that much more credibility to the study.
I agree. I thought the report was well written
So did I.
and clearly written.
I was
I
impressed.
didn't feel there was a huge, I didn't feel a strong call to action though. I mean,
did.
Oh, I did,
Yeah.
actually.
I don't know,
I guess anything else under this report? I don't think there's anything we can do at this stage.
I had a question about, so then there's the report from them, and sorry, we're gonna talk about the written report. The staff report that was drafted. But again, there were two, so this is on its own, and then there's, I guess, the staff report or your report.
My staff report, I just did a very, provided the background of how this came about. And a really brief summary of the report, and just essentially the only analysis I've done at this point is identifying how we can potentially use this document for future.
Okay. On reading your report, I felt that it wasn't clear what the immediate needs were and or our priorities. And so in my mind, I think if you're having that conversation, aligning on here's what we feel like we've got, if I was gonna put a stake in the ground, high impact, short term, these have to be done in the next 5 years. I would just, put it out there and have a conversation about how we make that happen. Because otherwise it's, well, I'm gonna pick this one and I'm gonna pick that one and we can address this, but if we had $1 to spend, where we're gonna put that money, and I feel like that it would be clearer to say, in this matrix is great. It's,
Yeah,
because not all of the things we can do. So here are the things that have been identified as having impact immediate. This is a town responsibility, this is a library can do, this is something we need to solve together.
yeah. I'll definitely, when I have that conversation with Phil, that could, there could be a follow-up report once we sort of identify that. I've been hanging on to this and I wanted to share it, especially when we're sort of approaching that time where we're working on the second presentation to council. But that, I'll make note of how that can be
I think it's just
presented.
the way of saying
better.
the top priorities that were provided by the consultants, because again, it's not us just saying it, it's that third party that's highlighted.
So I would look at it through to a different lens as well. Here are all the short-term things we need to do in the next 5 years. Is it worthwhile doing them individually or do we let it be expansion?
Mm-hmm. That,
Yeah.
yeah, I felt like there was a lot of things that we can do something about, so the overall message got a bit lost.
Yeah,
like-
so is it worthwhile doing them one-off?
Yes.
Or do we put them all into a bucket and say, to do the expansion, it's gonna be cheaper to do the expansion when we are, or it's cheaper to do the one-offs and here's our implementation dates for the one-offs, but I don't know if we've done that analysis.
No, I don't think we have.
No.
I mean,
Not yet.
the consultant tried to help with that a bit, but I think we have to revisit that and make that decision. And also, we don't have costs with everything either, so we don't know
Yeah.
what we're talking
And
about.
That
when
wasn't in
you
the scope of the.
No.
No, and when you and Phil, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, he will probably say, oh, you know, this is way too expensive to tackle on a one-off.
Yeah,
He may, if we're lucky.
it'd be kind of nice to drive down that path.
Yeah.
Phil is really good. I would speak to that. Like Phil is very experienced in facilities, so yeah, depends on what you want. With him.
So when you said you were gonna do the analysis, were you gonna do it from the perspective of these are the short-term things we could do, or, cause you said you were gonna sit down?
Yes,
And Phil's really good too at helping,
Yeah, no,
to
that's
help
fine.
like identify the low hanging fruit,
Yeah.
if you will.
I think, too, it's figuring out what is the town's responsibility and what is the library's.
Establishing that
Yes,
right at the gate, yeah.
Overall, I thought it was great. Really helped, sorry. Forgive me. I think maybe, like you said, there was so many one-offs that bigger message kind of got lost.
Yeah, you summarized it just a minute ago by saying how we could frame it.
Yeah.
Is it possible for that report to come to the next board meeting, or it really depends on your meetings with Phil and, yeah, okay, so we put it down for a future meeting.
yes,
And,
I can try, but I
no,
can't.
that's okay, not necessarily, just, that was a question more than a direction.
Just schedule them too with getting together, so, yeah.
Well, there's that, and there's, because there's the work afterwards, right, they have discussion, but then there's gonna be a whole bunch of work to do.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
So a month from now is probably too tight.
Probably, but I'll try.
So moving on to the MRFA fees, that's a report from you, Jen.
Yeah, I just have a really quick verbal update, follow up from the verbal update of the last meeting. The joint council meeting is taking place on October 30th at 5 p.m. So as a refresher, it's a meeting of both the town of the Blue Mountains and the town of Collingwood's councils. And the consultants of the MRFA are just doing sort of a pulse check or interim update. A majority of the presentation will be revealing very high level what we've heard so far. What are the common sort of themes that we're seeing coming out of the community engagement part of the project? And then the clerks are going to be formally inviting both library boards to the meeting. Ryan and I are just still figuring out logistics and how questions and that sort of thing are going to work. So I'll follow up probably via email just to clarify.
What time did you say?
5 o'clock on Wednesday, October 30th. And then the final report will be going to council in December. As of right now, the project is on time and there's no anticipated delays. So between the pulse check on October 30th and the final report, they'll be switching and kind of moving into that analysis phase of looking at all of the other studies they've been provided with and combining that with the feedback. But October 30th will mostly be going over what has been heard so far from the community.
Is there any possibility that they will reference the state of LA Shore?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
I've got it here as council chambers, so I can follow up with that. If we can just all be in council chambers, then
Yeah,
that
I
would make the
just,
most sense for space, but
I just wasn't sure because it's not a joint council and board meeting, should the library board have questions.
Hmm.
I imagine clerks will say we filter them through you. But I don't actually know.
Okay.
So that's what I
Can
was
ask
waiting
her.
on.
Yeah,
And so that's starting at 5 o'clock on the 30th, and we're, as a board, invited.
You will be, yeah, you'll get a formal invitation from the clerk's department to that meeting.
And is it, how long is it supposed to last?
2 hours is what's slotted for,
But it could go on.
highly unlikely.
No, I imagine the presentation part will be. It's so hard to say, but I have a feeling it'll be an hour meeting.
Cause plus we've gotta be conscious of the fact that everyone's been at town hall, like the clerks and everybody's been at town hall all day.
Okay.
So to
Yeah.
ask them to be there till 9 o'clock at night, I don't think so,
Yeah.
right? It'll be,
Yeah.
Your mind's beyond, let's get out of here.
it's scheduled for it says it's scheduled from 5 to 7.
Is it a public meeting too, or?
Nope.
just by invite?
No, it'll probably be just by invitation, so, in this case, yeah, it says it's a 2-hour meeting, but if it's done in less than 2 hours, makes everybody happy.
Okay, Sean, I have a question for you. When we talked about, or when they brought up the subject of MRFA, was there a conversation with Meaford too? Like, has Meaford?
We extend, yeah, okay, I mean, if it's all right with the latitude, I'd like to very well clarify that. We extended the invitation to join this venture with all of our surrounding neighbors, like all of our surrounding
Okay.
municipalities. They said no. So there's been some rumor, some myth put together that we didn't ask them. We did. We asked them. Their reasoning, I don't know, none of my business. I imagine usually it comes down to this for the reasoning, but
Wait, who's feeling?
all of our neighboring municipalities, so Meaford, Grey Highlands, like I think we asked, yeah, Meaford, Grey Highlands, Clearview, like we asked our all the municipalities we touch. And Colin was the only one that was open. Well, I think there's been a working relationship there anyway, so.
There has been, yeah, there were interviews with, key people from some of those neighboring communities. They just weren't an official
Yeah,
partner on
and
the project.
I think Collingwood had also extended it to their neighbors, being like Second
Yeah.
Beach and so on and so forth, so we tried. They
Well,
said
it's
no.
good to know, because I was in Meaford yesterday and there was lots of conversation going on and, about what they wanted there. So this is just
Well,
population,
they need to talk to their counselors.
and I don't think they know at all what's going on with their own council, so that's
Yeah.
kind of interesting, okay.
No, just, so I'm happy to clarify that anytime. Yeah, we asked, they said no.
Anything else under MRFA?
I attended the session. It was really good. Actually, it's so funny. I attended it thinking I could just be an observer.
I'm glad you were there though.
But I wasn't, because there was only about 4 or 5 people at that session.
Yeah, that was a small
Did
one.
you just repeat everything we had said here? Yeah.
But then I did put in a plug for I want a big pool so I can do my lights. But I did say I'm saying this as an individual, not as a member of the elected board.
I think because you were so confident speaking, though, it encouraged some of the other people to speak up, so that was nice.
Yeah, it actually, when it started, I'm like, oh no, but then actually it was a good session. It turned out okay.
Let's move on to the IDEA committee. Please. Again, that's a report for you.
Yeah, so I just essentially summarized some of the work that this group has done to date. We are in the process of, this isn't included, but we're in the process of recording another video that will kind of summarize similar to what's in this report, and be aired at the All-Town staff meeting on November 1st, and I'll also do a library update at that meeting as well. But for the most part, we've done quite a bit in a very short period of time. I have a lot of experience sitting on committees like this, where it's kind of that cross collaboration for this specific topic between library town. Things tend to move very slow. So the fact that we even put together a business case to get some financial support behind this committee, in my opinion, is just really reflects how well this group is working together. And then I'm also now the co-chair of the committee with another town staff member who works in the building department, and they are awesome. So
Well, but, you know, I want to congratulate you because as I read this, I thought, oh, you've done a great job, obviously.
I would say this is more a reflection on you
Yeah,
and your leadership capabilities and just your style, your you. So I say congratulations as well. It's a lot. It is a lot, right? Some which has not been attained yet, right? So it's really great to see.
And you've established yourself in this community pretty fast.
Thank you.
I have a board motion to commend Jen for her leadership on this committee.
Sure.
I say we could pick any of these people as movers and seconders.
Thank you.
Any opposed can leave now.
Yes, so that is a real motion, please.
Okay.
Would you second to finish that? So since everyone moved it and everyone seconded, I consider that carried.
Yeah.
I marked down for Franz, Joanne and Julia, just because balancing out some of the other ones.
Okay, thank you. So the next item is the board evaluation process. So I know that Julia, you looked over the survey
yeah.
instrument after Jen put it out there.
I didn't cross-reference it to the original one, so if you missed something, I would have missed it too, but I looked at the format and the,
There were a few tiny changes, but nothing that would have really changed like the nature of a question, and I didn't not include anything either.
yeah.
But if
Does
you want,
does it have a reference on there that just says adapted from CMHA? Cause there's somebody will forget down the road. And it'd be good to acknowledge.
That's a good
where it came
point.
From,
I can add that in. It doesn't
Yeah.
say it right now.
and because you made a few tiny changes, it was adapted.
That's adapt.
That's a good point.
That's good to recognize where you.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next step is to release a survey to us. It's in Survey Monkey, I assume.
Yeah.
And so then, if you can just include a deadline by which, so we just answer it individually and then it'll be aggregated anonymously for discussion at the November board meeting.
In open session, right?
Yes.
And just everybody make sure you read the instructions and don't, there's always that person somewhere who gets the scale mixed and you get results back and you're like all excellent except for one person and you're like, is that intended?
And all that person's all terrible.
Terrible. It happens.
Yeah.
Good reminder, Drew.
Yeah.
That would be me, that would be that.
I've done it too.
Okay, so that's ready for release whenever we have a chance. Great. Okay. So the next report is the Regional Provincial Committee's report, which I have to say was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
The extent to which,
Even when I was writing, I'm like, oh, wow.
yeah, the extent to which you're connected and staff are connected at various levels is really good.
I did wonder, yet again, maybe you can explain to me, because I know I asked it repeatedly, but so what is the difference between FOPL and the OLA? Like, is one more of a union or an advocacy?
FOPL is definitely more focused on advocacy.
Okay,
They work very closely together, but they are two different organizations. I look at FOPL as the provincial voice
like
where,
governing, ethical?
advocating at the provincial level, FOPL definitely takes a more, prominent role in that effort, even though they do work very closely with OLA. So there will be, they tend to, if they're going to speak to a minister, sometimes they will go together. But FOPL's main, I would say their main role is definitely the advocacy part for all libraries in Ontario. Ontario Library Association has a lot of sub sort of groups within it too. So you've got the Ontario Public Library Association, but then there's also separate groups for academic libraries, special libraries, that sort of thing, where FOPL is, you've got your executive director, and then the board would be, they would appoint a number of CEOs to represent small and urban areas, rural urban areas, like different caucuses, and there's also an Indigenous representative as well. But there's definitely overlap between the two organizations, but OLA, yes, there's the advocacy, but OLA also organizes actual events like the super conference, or they'll do sort of micro conferences for, you know, a children's and youth focus or communications focus, that sort of thing.
So they're like the AMO of libraries. Because AMO is
Yeah.
mostly the backbone of doing all the stuff for the municipalities. They conduct the good roads, they conduct, or like they conduct.
Yes.
Yeah, Roma, good roads, FCM, like they're the staff, they're the driving force, so that's what it sounds like.
I'd say AMO was a blend of both FOPL and OLA.
That is-
OLA is predominantly training, which is, and has a subgroups, which is
Mhm.
like AMO.
AMO, yeah,
But AMO also is a big advocacy lobby group,
Yeah.
and that's really FOPL's role.
okay. Anyway, sorry.
That's how, in my head, I'm FOPL is advocacy and OLA is training, education, communication.
So imagine the acronym if they
For
came
the
together.
most part, yeah. And then there's the Ontario Library Service, throw in there too.
Cool. Sorry.
That's okay. Are there any other?
Yeah, sorry. Any questions or comments?
Just impressive.
Mhm.
Did you move to receive?
Oh, we received it earlier.
Oh, we did, we're good.
Yeah. So the last, report here is the service update. So questions or want to comment on it?
I know, Carol had a question about Little Free Libraries, the ribbon cutting being, included in this report, and the only reason it wasn't is because this is a reflection of September.
Oh,
So that'll be BMPL in the news for October. But again, I mean, we've been pushing out a lot more communication and it's been being picked up, which is exactly what we want. I did a radio interview about the digitization of that local history book. I did not think the media would even pick up on that story, but they were at council and that was kind of, I think it's nice to have something that's not political, good news story. That's exactly what we're looking for and they're picking it up. So that's been great. And there've been a couple of joint media releases too between library and town. When we do that, we obviously get a lot more traction too. You know, the town has their own actual page on Collingwood today, so it's just sort of nice to have that support and it brings more attention to the library. So it was another good month for.
You did a great job on the radio, like, I still get like a little kid, I'm like, oh, that person. This is good on the radio.
I'm surprised at how many people actually listen to the radio. Cause you get, like, people will email you or say something right after and you're like, oh.
I turned on the TV last week and somehow I ended up in the Collingwood City Council meeting.
Well, but that was thrilling.
It wasn't as big or impressive as our.
No.
No,
Except for the infighting.
there wasn't any fighting that day.
There wasn't? Oh.
Not for the hour I sat
Oh,
there.
good.
The Mother Goose Project, I think it's fabulous. I just surprised. How come Collingwood isn't doing this?
I'm not sure.
sure.
But I will say we're very lucky that we do have a staff member who is formally trained, professional librarian trained in this type of program. But I think there were questions too about, oh, how are you advertising this? And so it is listed under our outreach page on the website because we consider it an outreach program. It's not like story time. There's a very targeted audience, and with Mother Goose, it's not a one-off session. You know, you need to have weekly.
Yeah, with the kids.
Yes, and you're building the trust and those sorts of things. So, right now, you know, our focus has been on our friend's house. But that's not to say that we haven't been reaching out to other organizations, daycares and things like that, that would, benefit from the service. But, the flip side of it too is trying to get other staff trained, which again, obviously we're having those conversations, but when it comes to outreach, we're pretty limited in terms of our staff, but also the expertise required to actually lead a program like.
So are you saying that you're sort of at capacity right now and you really don't want any more of each on it?
We're not at the point where we're turning anyone away, but you know, we wouldn't want to publicly advertise it either because the demographics that we're targeting are very, very vulnerable populations, and so we're kind of careful about how we advertise the
Yeah,
service.
'cause you could end up somebody following you or something.
Yeah,
Is there, oh, so,
I was gonna say, are you still talking about the groups?
yeah, okay, yeah, it was just a thought, is there a way, obviously, it's great if staff can do it, but is there an opportunity for us to support training of others who are working, so another shelter or other workers, even on like smaller projects, just so that we can have the sort of, it is a really wonderful thing to do, and that.
More of a spread.
More of a spread, so sort of train the trainer kind of thing.
yeah, I would say that's in progress.
Yeah, just a different way of looking at it.
Yeah, it's something new that we're providing too, so yeah, it's a matter of also having enough time to train other staff and kind of seeing how it would work. But yeah, I would definitely say that's in progress. Those are conversations we're having internally.
Would that put you in any liability situations if you're training the trainer, like someone locally within a home or whatever? And then they don't quite follow what you trained them?
I don't think so.
Okay, checking.
That's a good question.
But you are right, when it comes to the media, like they're dialed into us, it's good, like TVO reached out to me the other day, I could get back to them, I'm like, I forgot about TVO.
Wow.
Right?
About the library?
No,
But you'll mention the library when you
Well,
speak
you'll
to them.
get it.
I could.
So Jen, can you go up to the highlight by numbers?
Yes.
I just had some questions on what the numbers in the brackets.
Oh, at the last meeting, and again, I actually want to incorporate this specific template maybe in the 2025 action plan, because I've been experimenting with how we present this information, but I haven't really nailed it down yet. But I think it was at one of our previous meetings, someone had mentioned it'd be nice to know compare it to the month before.
Mm-hmm.
So in the brackets, if it's green with the plus sign, that's just, we've increased, we're up 12 from the last month.
Okay,
That's a good way to do it.
I thought the last one said we'd welcome 12. I was pretty sure.
I was like 50, whatever, 74 minus 12 is. I could pull it up if you want.
Maybe I'm wrong. I didn't think it was 62. No, sorry.
Well, we will trust your math.
Yeah. that's fine.
and then what I'm really interested in seeing is the board meeting, the views of the board meeting.
Oh, yes.
That was so high.
You weren't the only person to inquire about that, so I did look into it, so through YouTube, you have some very basic analytics you can look at. I had a really brief conversation with IT too, but we think maybe there was something funky that happened with the YouTube algorithm. over 100 people were from the United States. But the other really strange thing was, it showed that the average view time, even for those people, was like 53 minutes, which is odd. You'd think it'd be like 5 seconds if they, so do I have a really confident explanation as to why that number is so inflated? No.
Wasn't Russia, was it?
No, we
Foreign
had no,
interference.
we had
Nothing interfered
Canada,
with.
Canada, the US and UK. The Canadian numbers were consistent with previous months, it was like 16. So, it'll be interesting though, when I upload this recording to compare it, but at this point, like,
It's probably just.
I thought, wow, we should come back to it. Or I think, what
What
happened in the September meeting?
Maybe we should embrace it. Welcome newcomers.
I even wondered too, because
Australia.
typically we use Zoom. But the last meeting I experimented using Teams, and we're using Teams this month as well. But that wouldn't account for, like, those are the YouTube views. I thought maybe if there were other town staff, because they would actually see the recording, because now it all gets kind of stored in OneDrive with the council meetings too. But no, that wouldn't be inclusive of this massive number.
So should we just be having it reflect Canadian views, or like for another month, here's a different question. Typically, when you had someone accidentally click on it and watch it for a couple of seconds, is that counted in the statistics usually?
I don't think so. I can't remember how long you have to, I can look into that. I can't remember how long you have to watch the video for it to count a view, but if you're just quickly clicking on it, it wouldn't count as a view. But I just wanted to kind of wait and see what next month's or this meeting, what the views are, because then we could, if it goes back down to the normal number, then we know there's just something funky going on with September's. But yeah, I don't.
Good talking point, I guess, if someone's curious and ask about it.
It just jumped out at me.
Well,
You weren't the only one.
Yeah, I noticed it too, yeah.
Okay.
Would something similar be going on with council meetings?
I asked that question. IT didn't know because it's communications that oversees that. I haven't been told. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Anything else into this report? Okay, then let's move on to the Q3 financials. So I've noticed that we have a new, under E of current standing accounts and funds, there's a new fund listed there.
Yes. So when I was working with the deputy treasurer on the budget, I didn't know that this reserve existed, but essentially our surplus, I knew we had control over our surplus, which not every library has that control, which is great. But our annual surplus is actually just being amalgamated and kept in a separate reserve fund. And so that fund is what we use to offset any expenses in our budget that the 6% doesn't cover. So this year, when you were looking at the 2025 draft budget, all of our capital costs, and then there's the number in red for our deficit, those would be covered by this reserve fund.
So you didn't know we had this fund?
No, I didn't know. I mean, in my defense, I'm new. This is my first budget I'm working on. But my question was, well, where does all this money, like, where is it? Where does it go?
Okay.
And that total I also had never seen before. Because it's a town lined account, so it's not like I can log into the library's bank account and see this reserve. But even though it's a town lined account, the library board has the ultimate authority over how that money is spent. So I imagine in the past, when we were talking about wages and any sort of loan, or I guess it wasn't a loan, council gave us $160,000. Anything that wasn't spent would just be sitting in that reserve fund. And then it's at the board's discretion of how we spend it.
So this is a good thing about getting both new staff here and new staff in the town, is everyone's sort of looking, going, oh, what's this about?
Yeah.
It's like,
Mhm.
ooh. So it kind of
Yeah,
popped up for the first time. I'd never seen this kind of number before either. I have a question. Does this include capital as well as,
Yes.
operational? So it's both.
wow.
Yeah, I wondered if there was any restrictions on how the board could assign that money, and so if we can use it for either capital or operating.
So it could go
Sorry?
towards our accessibility short-term plan.
But it's like
Well-
we don't want to solve all of our.
No,
No, that's
and
true, we don't, yeah.
And there are separate, so just for a point of clarity, and I have it in the sort of the status section here. The board's control of that is in our funding agreement. It might not refer to it as, actually, I think it does refer to it as the annual surplus reserve. But that's in our funding agreement. So should anything in the funding agreement change, we would have to keep this in mind. But then we can't ignore all of our other funds. So we do have, for instance, a fund that is specific for feasibility study and space plans. So we could have tapped into that for the accessibility report, but we also, like there's multiple ways essentially we can find the funding. It doesn't necessarily have to come out of the annual surplus reserve. And it wouldn't really make sense for us to take too much out of it because in the draft budget, we're going to be in a deficit until maybe 2029. I didn't include 2029, but we are going to need that money just to balance our budget.
The other thing is it's nice to have, presuming at some point we will get an expansion, you know, there will be whatever that funded project is, but there will be things that we would need. So I see we have a savings account too. And how, like, how does that, how did that money get in there? Is that a deliberate, every year we're gonna take something out of this? Yeah, I don't,
I thought before I found out about this reserve, I
okay.
thought that our surplus was going into
the
our,
savings,
yes,
yeah.
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. And I think the money that's sitting in the savings account, from what I've read in previous finance reports, at some point over the last couple of years, the board amalgamated a few reserve funds, and it may have been when we opened that bank account. I don't know how many people were, or if you were on the board at the time, but I read that somewhere. I'm almost positive that's where that,
Was that invested in something, the savings, hopefully, not just in cash?
no, it's not. But we do have a GIC,
Account too?
That's it.
yes.
Yeah, the next one, line reserve fund.
Well, we shouldn't have, like, if we've got 290 and then 400 in the reserve, it should be invested. In
Yeah, I would
something.
like to know the source of that open reserve, because that's something we've been talking about for the
Yeah.
last, several months is,
Yeah,
where did that come from? And I think there was some amalgamation of some stuff, but I really don't know its provenance.
I can look further into that, also with the new, I would even be curious, to see what the advice would be from, the treasurer and deputy treasurer as
Yeah.
well.
I think my opinion would be that'd be a worthwhile
Yeah.
discussion to have with the
Sounds
board
good.
and all that. What are the options we can do with these funds?
Yeah,
What are we limited to?
and that, I would also like to consult them too, just from getting their sort of budget expertise on the strategic planning budget line that we have, which I think may come up when we look at the draft budget as well. Should it be integrated into operations? I'm not sure what the history of,
Yeah, I think some
That
of the
was-
history, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at something from 2023, everything, there were just completely different definitions. It's-
it probably changed when I did the first quarter of this year, because I would have spoken to the acting treasurer at the time, and I changed the wording because I made it so that I could understand it and then explain it to the board, essentially. So I would have updated probably some of the language.
And this open reserve is actually cash in our bank account.
Yes,
And I know there's a lot of discussion at one point about a GIC, and I only see the one small GIC here.
that's also in our bank account.
We need a finance subcommittee.
No, we don't. Oh, no, we don't.
Don't want to on that.
We just need some information from our CEO.
There was something called the land, anyway, we'll go, yeah, I think absolutely, and I do believe it would be good to look at 2023, the last statement. Honestly, because there may be other monies that have been put somewhere, but we're not sure. The other thing that's sort of coming to mind though is as we try to make budget decisions, so we say, oh, well, we can use this, we need to use this for this, or we need to use it for that. Understanding first, Joe, within the budget, what absolutely do we have to, it's kind of in my world, it was the lights on budget. So what is absolutely needed to run, successfully? It's not just lights on, but, running programs, et cetera. And then what are those items that are, those things that are gonna make us super successful, and even back to the return on investment. But, and then, so, because that's where we understand whether that 6% is doing what it needs to. And then from a financial perspective, because right now what we're doing is banking on grants coming in. And that's a bit of a concern, I would say, because if a grant doesn't come in and you banked on it and you've allotted some other money to something else, and, there's just some, I think, different way to look at or make sure that we're consistently covering what we need to cover.
You're trying to minimize risk.
And minimize risk. Yeah.
I did,
Yeah.
I did do a calculation, which I think I included in the cover letter of the budget, just to make sure that with the 6% and the anticipated costs for the next 3 years, will this, say we don't have a surplus at all, will this $450,000, $15,000 get us through to the end of 2028? Yes.
And I think it'll leave us still 200,000 of it.
What'd you say, Laurie?
Based on in the budget where she has the negative numbers,
Yeah,
they amount to 217,000, so we still have.
so we'd still have money
Yes,
left over,
200,
and
yeah.
plus we have the savings.
Yeah, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Where that came from.
Will the 6%, like, cause the funding agreement just renewed. So I approached it as, okay, can we make it to the end of that before we revisit the terms? We can confidently.
That's the end of 28.
Yes,
So that's good.
yeah.
And that definition that said that, the 6%, is that your wording, like under the 15, like that's you that's written that? That's
Yes.
not an explanation from the,
Sorry, where are you looking?
should be noted under section 8 of the funding agreement, there's nothing that prohibits the board from approaching the town for other. So that's your interpretation.
Yes.
The town didn't say, oh, you can also come and ask it.
It's right under the funding agreement.
It's right there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, there you go. It seems higher than we originally thought, huh, Joanne? Like, didn't we think it was? Anyway, it's good. It's all good news.
There have been a lot of, like, if you look back the last couple of years though, between mat leaves, medical leaves, and, just a lot of things you don't plan for. Or even with the desk, how many times did the RFP go out and then you had that in your budget and you didn't spend it?
Yeah.
So I think that explains some of it.
But Bob explains most of it, because look at the percentage in our budget, that's human resources versus
Right.
2025, our human resources 1.198 and our operational is 135. I mean, they're massively different, over $1 million different.
That's the case for most institutions.
Absolutely. But it also means when we see big variances, if it happens, it's gonna be an HR thing. It's not gonna be anywhere else.
Yep.
And you're right, there's been a lot of HR changes over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Can you go down into the spreadsheet, down to the capital,
Yes,
the 227?
277?
you have a good eye. I think it's just the formula.
Yeah.
I think it was adding the percentages.
Okay.
Yes, I didn't notice that when so I can fix it, but if you
Okay.
look at what our budget is and what we've spent so
It's okay,
far. Yeah,
there's no worries
it's
about
fine.
200.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I just noticed that the software was overspent, but the whole budget item isn't, so I'm not too worried about that now.
Yeah. Yeah,
Cause the budget, the total capital expenses, you're still got, you're where you should be. this year.
yes. And if I think back, I'm pretty sure cause we were budgeting to replace all of the computers and the new software, and we thought the computers were gonna cost us more than they did, and then the software costed us more than, so yeah,
Yeah.
but it'll all work out. But that would explain that one too.
Are you gonna move on any of those furniture and fixtures before the year ends? Placement,
The $5,000.
Maybe,
okay.
And strategic planning.
We
Why,
should roll that into the
yeah,
regular budget rather than in future.
Well, that's actually part of the 2025
Correct.
discussion, yeah.
Any other questions about the quarterly statement?
we seem to be right on
Target.
Yeah.
target, because this is, well, no, this is Q3, so we're 66%, 63%.
That it's usually about a month behind, so that's pretty close to an
Okay.
August number we
Okay.
have.
Okay.
Okay, so moving on,
The 277%, okay.
Yeah.
moving on to the budget. 2025 budget. So,
okay,
So the first thing in the background is that to your strategic planning and each of the operating.
see it on this. Is it still sitting in separately? As a, strat plan still sitting out separately, it's a hand spot.
yes, yes, it is.
Yeah, so that's why I'm moving it into wherever it's appropriate.
But is it possible we'll get to the end of 25 and still haven't done the desk?
Maybe,
Have you since you've been here, have you put out the call?
no,
Okay,
it wasn't a part of our budget this year. And then this budget hasn't been approved yet, so I wouldn't wanna move.
but it was a part of our budget, because we rolled it into the surplus at some point.
Is this the replacement of the circulation desk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we've had a budget for it for years, haven't we?
Yeah, but I don't think it was included in 2024.
I know has been discussed.
It's been discussed. Anyway, it's more, what do we need to do to help that happen? And is that something that if we were to spend, 60,000 on a desk, would that be a desk that we could use in a renovated, expanded Ellie Shore?
That meets all these accessibility requirements that we now know.
Like, we don't wanna spend 60,000, because we could shoot ourselves in the foot by saying, because we really want an expansion and a renovation here.
So my question on that was sort of a high level question. I didn't realize that had been in the budget previously. But do we want that to be a priority based on now the accessibility report that we had?
But here's the thing, right? Sorry to jump in on you on this, but like when it comes to that, it would have been budgeted years ago. It would have come up, it would have been budgeted for, and then when it didn't get spent, it would have been dumped into that surplus
Yeah.
reserve.
Yeah.
There's no point, like I don't see much personally, because I deal with the big budget. you know, you don't necessarily have to go through it all again to make a new budget for it. You've already gone through the motions. You would simply pull it from the reserve.
Yeah.
Right.
There's no need to do that. And same with the costing, like the costing of the RFP and all that, that could still come out of one of the other reserves because it would have been put forward and not spent.
But my question is, should we be doing this?
Now,
Is it an essential thing to do for staff safety and that?
It's all part of
I
the.
Because I would go,
Yeah.
like, you haven't analyzed the accessibility report. Why is this replacement all of a sudden the priority for 2025?
Yeah, exactly.
Because to me, it jumped out.
This,
I can speak to that a
Yeah.
bit. You can go.
yeah, I was gonna say that particular project, in my eyes, would be a low hanging fruit item, right? You could get that done. I
Yeah.
don't know why it didn't get done. It's not my business, but
Cause they couldn't find anybody according to.
yeah, that's what I heard,
I
I remember too.
Serena told us that.
But why would we just have that identified? Would we not have more from the accessibility report?
I know, that's what
Like, I think I like Sean's idea, just throw it into a bucket. And then
It's already gone.
make that more of an operational priority, but look at it from the perspective of what other things from the accessibility report also have a high priority for 2025.
Well, I'll speak to two things. The first is the accessibility report isn't the first time that desk has come up in other studies and reports that have come to the board. And I mentioned earlier, I thought that it would be a high priority because that is our first point of service. That's where, you know, people come to interact for the first time with staff. The other thing too is we've been looking at or talking about designs that would include 2 additional workspaces for staff that could essentially do their job from that area, but also provide sort of roaming reference, that sort of thing. So it could, pending if we can get somebody to do it, it could also sort of help our space issue with staff workspaces. In terms of an expansion of Ellie Shore, it's really hard to say. But if anything, in any of the discussions I think that have been had, moving the circulation desk from where it is now, I don't think was part of the
Yeah.
plans, because if you were to build on the other side of the gallery, it'd be weird because then the gallery would separate the new space from the rest of the library. So I don't know, when I'm thinking about what expansion could look like, I wouldn't think that the circulation desk area would change much.
It all depends.
But it's
on
hard
how
to say.
Your whole design. it
Yeah.
Could be really changed and your entrance could change, and so until you've got that flavor, then it's hard to make that decision. But I think all that Julia, from what I understood, is that if we are building or getting a new desk, we just make sure it can be recycled into the new build wherever things end up being.
Somehow, so it's not used
Yeah.
to say, well, why did you do this? You can make do for another 10 years.
Yeah,
I have two more thoughts. The first is, say we didn't include it in the budget. I'm just trying to think it's a bit of a faux pas to go back and draw out of, what I'm trying to do is make sure we're accounting for everything in the budget process. Can we do that? Yeah, we can. But for good budgeting, I think that it should be included if we're going to do it. The alternative would be if it's built into the budget, would it make more sense for it to be under like a more broad heading for accessibility, so that should the desk not work out, we can at least access that money it was budgeted for right from the beginning for accessibility enhancements.
I think that if you could put a line item somewhere to have that flexibility for accessibility enhancements, just like you said, I think that would be a better thing. And then that would fall under that.
Right.
But then if you have other priorities, when you sit down with Phil, and you said we can do these in 2025, then they could also come up from that line item.
yeah, because maybe it's redesigning your whole circulation desk.
It's terrible for patrons too, because you're
Yeah.
never anywhere to, like, if I was to go out, it's hard, yeah.
So,
The drawers don't even close, like it's,
yeah, so it's the whole area, not just one
yes,
desk. So-
yes.
where things been through the wars.
Yeah.
Well, for several years, it's been identified as the
Yeah.
top accessibility issue.
Yes, for staff as well as patrons.
Yes. Yeah, Joanne, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm just building on the idea and sort of coming back to the report and the need to identify high impact, immediate activities that the library can do. So if it ends up, I think there's a number, but just say there's 3 or 4 of them, to have that line item of accessibility updates means that we say, here are the 4 things we need, you know, for RFP or whatever, okay, what are they all gonna cost? Because it could be within 60 that there's more we can do, and we're thinking about it holistically, or not project out here, project out there, et cetera. So I think strategically, it makes more sense to have that budget, first of all, to have it identified as accessibility upgrades. And then we're determining them based on the priorities as opposed to, because otherwise, like in our budget, we don't have a line item for reading pencils. We don't.
Yeah.
It's sort of, you know,
It's too granular.
It's too granular, sorry, yes, thank you. You're so good.
I guess,
But I think too, though, that we have to be very careful, that the flip side of that is, if we identify it as accessibility upgrades and not just a general item about furniture, then we do have to be very mindful about what we are spending that money on. If it is in fact addressing an accessibility issue. So.
And I support you in whatever you wanna do, it's just,
Yeah.
I know the way, obviously, you know, I know the way that you can just get it done, if you wanna just get it done.
okay,
How it works for you,
um,
I just like to see things get done. I can't, and I don't think
You have a saw?
we're not gonna, well, we're not gonna get anywhere, we're not gonna get anywhere by rehatching why it didn't get done. Because we'll never figure that out, there's no point in us
Yes.
even bothering with it, we know what we gotta do, we get it
Yeah.
done.
But I think if we, and you do have the flexibility to have a,
I would wanna speak to the deputy treasurer about, because I think it might actually have to stay under capital.
yeah,
Probably does.
Cause it
So
is,
noticing, well, it's also, these are all numbered accounts, right? And these are numbered accounts that the town uses.
Yes,
So it would, I mean, really the 64,000s are all capital. Just based on.
yes,
Yeah, so it'd be hard to move something like the desk out of that.
yeah,
So I mean, you could always do accessibility dash replacement furniture or something, you know, to keep it in the same spot.
Yeah.
So, but you'd end up with accessibility probably in more than one spot. But I think, I mean, it makes sense to me that you put it into the 2025 budget.
Mhm.
But it's already mid-October. By the time you know, even issue purchase order, whatever you end up doing in terms of process, you're into buying in 2025.
well, and also too, what we do at our level, or at our budget purposes, is that we have an item, but we also have the funding source listed with it. So that's just as easy then too, it's not gonna affect your bottom line, I would say, only adds value to the whole enterprise, just FYI.
so we're really showing it.
So I think it stays in as something, because it's been identified for 3 years. And it's already in the 2025 draft budget, so I think that makes sense. And then we have a report coming back later that has all the accessibility matrix that you described, that will help us identify other items.
So we're not gonna do a line item then for.
It already is a line item. Right?
it's just like not a new, I see what you're saying.
It's here under the budget as, capital expenses, furniture, replacement furniture, and, $60,000. That's it, right?
We also, like I don't know the intention today if the budget will be approved. Or if we're gonna bump it, but even if, so I think we do have flexibility. In terms of, you know, if part of that $60,000 isn't spent on replacement furniture, if it's moved to another line. In capital, I don't think it really matters. Adjusting the language though to add accessibility, I can ask, I just don't know for sure. I don't know what the process is, I haven't done that yet.
So whereabouts in the budget are you?
Sorry?
So whereabouts would it go under? Capital, okay, I gotta find capital here in mine.
There's about 5 lines down, it says replacement furniture and it's account number 64,016. And you can see that 60,000, a couple different spots in 2023 and again in 2025.
We're looking at the 2025.
Expenses.
This is the,
See the,
Right,
There's
it's not in the capital, yeah, okay. Okay.
The other thing too, based on our budget process here, I do believe the board has the authority to move budget lines around. Once, because the baseline's already been approved by council, we get our 6%, so
Entirely our budget now.
yes. So if, like I can have those conversations with town staff to see if there's any movement or flexibility to add a line or move something. But if the base, like if the board approves this budget, you can still go back and move line items.
Yes.
So
That's what
maybe,
I was trying to say.
maybe it's, I don't know. So where is the, in this budget, is there somewhere that specifically says the 60,000 for replacement of it?
Yes, so it's under capital
So it's the
expenses.
replacement furniture?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're agreeing as a board, that's what it's for, but if we end up that we can find something else for it because that gets delayed, we're not restricted to,
Yes,
okay, then.
But we wanna pull it from the reserve, so
That happens automatically.
Yeah, but if we have the 60,000
Not
for
if
the
we-
replacement and it doesn't happen, and then next year we have the 60,000 for replacement, doesn't happen, but if, because of the accessibility report, we have something else that should be done quickly, we could use that 60,000 for that. That's all I wanted to know. So what we've done is we've just allocated 60,000 to replacement furniture and we can spend it on whatever we want. Well, we've decided.
capital.
Yeah, but we've decided that that is a priority because it's been historically a priority. But if you sit down and do your analysis with Phil and you find out maybe there's some either better low hanging fruit, then we can apply to 60,000 for that, as
Yeah.
long as it's replacement furniture. Yeah,
that's
okay.
correct.
when you say it comes out automatically, no, we'd have to tell them, because if we're under again, for some other reason, it could come out of our operating.
If I understand this budget, you can correct me if I'm wrong. If you look at this page,
Which page is,
the cover page.
First page?
Yeah.
Yeah, first page.
no? Oh, okay,
Okay.
sorry.
So you see the total like capital expenses. Is here, 140,000.
Yes,
It's getting drawn from the reserve fund.
yes.
Oh, yeah, okay,
And that happens every year. And the
okay.
numbers,
And I did ask that question if historically, some of our capital budget was funded from that reserve fund, and the answer was yes.
And so what are the other items that are in to move it 140,000?
versus the 60.
It would be all of our,
In the capital
budget. so it's a combination of, that's our book budget. That doesn't include our digital resources though, those are under our operating budget as, it's like a subscription because we pay.
But wouldn't books be part of your operational cost?
No.
That's interesting.
there was a huge debate in the library community. It had to do with insurance. I
Oh,
don't really know the ins and outs, makes no sense to me, but it's considered capital.
wow.
It was.
that in there, yeah.
Oh,
And then,
I just wanna double check with Franz, sorry. That was
The owl is hooting, which means there's a problem.
There was just a bit of a glitch. I just wanna make sure that,
Maybe it's the foreign interference
you
is
said all good.
logging in
Thanks,
to watch
Max.
us.
For 50 minutes.
Yes.
sorry, I'll go back to what we were looking at. Yeah, so this is our book budget minus digital resources. We've got the $60,000 in there for the circulation desk. And then we have software, replacement equipment, and contract services. It was, contract services was a lot higher in previous years because we did the website, upgrade.
and there is no transfer from the reserve down here in this page. whereas you just pointed it out, Lori, on the other page.
And I think that might be because it wasn't handled in the same way previously.
You're right.
So it doesn't appear on the first page for 2020. Well, no, 2022 doesn't exist any longer on ours. But even 2024, it shows 96,000 capital, but it shows nothing transferred from reserve, even though I think probably there was.
Yes, that's correct.
It's just, but it got shown up on a different page. So the truth of the matter is, we've been trying to unravel how we budget in terms of how the town used to budget. Now that we had control over it, what makes sense to us rather than a bunch of gobbledygook that the town had to use. And I think we're still working our way through that.
Yes.
As long as you two understand that.
Can we go up to the administrator? There are some questions around that.
Sorry, where? Is it this budget or are you
Yeah,
thinking?
yeah.
Okay.
Right there on the administrative down there. So there was the,
What page?
She's got it right there.
No, but what
And it's
page?
all-
so it's the, right under staffing.
Okay.
See expenses, then it says staffing, then it says administrative.
Yep.
Oh, I'm just trying to Julia to find it.
Oh.
No, what page are we on now?
About page
Five.
3.
You have a change of board allocation from 3,000 to 2,000, so I just
Yeah.
wondered why there was a decrease of $1,000.
What line were you?
The library board line.
Library board was 3,000 in 2024 and it's 2,000 in 2025.
I based that off of what we've spent this year
Okay. so
and we
it's-
didn't really spend much.
Yeah.
And so I knew that I was increasing a few other lines, so I decreased that budget line.
Okay,
Well,
And last
we
year, I
had a
think it-
few strategic planning sessions, which was all day, and we had food, and so that would have probably gone into some of that.
Yeah, there was some expenses too with my recruitment. Like, catering lunches and a few other things,
okay.
that would have fallen under that. So I didn't anticipate the board would need a $3,000 budget, but for next year, I could be
I
wrong.
guess the only question might be, anybody interested in attending OLA? Cause now it's a physical in-person conference, right? So boot camp on
Is
the
it-
Saturday.
Is that the one in January that's right after?
Yeah,
Roma?
and there is still the virtual option, obviously, it's,
It's in January, right?
Yes.
the end, yeah.
Yeah. I'm interested in going. I've always wanted to go and I'm retiring end of this year.
So I don't know if there's some money in the budget to cover, I know you buy an institutional membership for OLA.
Yeah.
Or attendance, but there might be a hotel room one night, depending on weather, that kind of stuff, or whether, if you have friends you stay with in town.
Is this in Toronto?
Mhm.
I think some of us should go.
Mhm.
I thought we say it's important and we
It is
meant to go.
Yeah.
And we just, things have conspired against us, but I think it's important that a couple people go. But, I'm sure we can. I feel like we're always under budget. Even though we plan very well, but I feel like,
Do you mean the total budget or just?
if we went over the library board line, there's probably another line where
Yeah.
will be under. Or do you feel it's really super tight?
I think we should budget for what we anticipate to spend. So if there's 2 board members that are available and want to go to the super conference, I would increase that budget line if you require accommodation and then there's mileage too.
Yeah. I think we would.
I think that makes sense. I mean, it's still a pretty new board, so there's a lot of experience that can be gained by going to something like the boot camp.
Yeah,
And, I mean, typically, we always just, we'll book a hotel room, shared accommodation, and you get shared mileage usually as well. And meals, that's, for the one night. So whether that makes it another $500 or something, I think it makes
That's what I
sense.
was
to me.
thinking.
Yeah,
I don't know what hotel rooms are anymore.
And wouldn't we wanna go for more than one day?
The board boot camp is one day,
Okay,
but that's not to say that, yeah, if there are other sessions. Like sometimes there are throughout the conference sessions that are more for like leadership, so it could apply to both CEO and board. There aren't many though. So the Saturday though, for the board boot camp is definitely what would be the most
okay.
beneficial. I had a really good time when I attended it for the first time this year. The board boot camp.
yeah. So why don't we make that line 2,500?
Okay.
Okay, then I had a question on the special events.
Okay, let me just, sorry, I'm just gonna make note of this. We're amending
Oh, it went up.
board to 2,500.
So yeah, so you went from 1,500 to 3,500. And I just wondered, we're not doing the arts walk, so why did that increase in 2025? Or is that where,
So the arts walk is part of the ACC budget.
okay,
The reason that was increased is because of the 30th year anniversary of Ellie Shore. We don't have any concrete plans yet, but I felt that a $2,000 budget was probably
Yeah, you
enough.
want to celebrate.
yeah, no, that's good. Okay, and then the art council from 1,000 to 6,000.
Yes, so, historically, the way that I understand it, again, I'm still new-ish, I don't know how much longer I can say that, is,
Your first budget experience, next year you can't say it.
historically, the revenues, because the ACC are one of our big revenue streams. And so historically, the revenues have just offset any expenditures, which the way that I'm approaching the budget this year is, okay, how much do we think we're actually going to spend? And so that number was based on a scaled back arts walk and then and then ensuring we have enough money in honorariums, which we've had conversations with the ACC where, do we do this amount or this amount? So I'm picking an amount and actually going to say, this is your budget for this year.
Great.
Great.
So that's where that number came from. And, in previous years, it has been higher. So
19,000 in 2023, is that there?
I don't think so, but that could have also been arts walk stuff. I imagine that's what it was.
It was smaller then.
I can look into,
It's the
but
first year though, so there may have been, startup expenses.
yeah, actually, I can pull that. Oh, actually, no, I can't pull it up, sorry. These are only for, yeah.
Is there any other questions around, items in the budget?
Well, so are we okay with the 6,000 then? Did we?
Absolutely, it's their job.
Yeah, okay. So then I also have some more questions.
You had a lot of questions.
Yeah. I know. Under operating. The training. I didn't have as many questions.
Oh.
We have on which.
Training and travel?
Training education courses, it was 1,500 to 5,000.
So I included
500.
the cost of the Apple leadership course, that the board wants me to take in 2024.
Hey, good.
I did apply with Lori's recommendation for a scholarship, but I won't know. Actually, I'll probably know shortly if I get the scholarship, but I budgeted for, no, I didn't get anything. So,
Okay,
um,
but that was part of your learning plan and that was, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, just because of my background, why did health and safety decrease from 1,300 to 800?
oh, because there was a course that was budgeted for this year that we won't need
Okay,
next year. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it's a health and
Okay.
safety designation.
Okay, and then the audit.
Yes.
$1,000 increase in the audit line.
I based it off of, last year, but also the deputy treasurer provided me with estimates for how much that will cost, and that's where that number came from.
Person doing business is going up,
Yeah,
not just there, everywhere.
Okay, and then under the museum,
my taxes went up.
Yep.
I just had special projects
Oh, right.
decrease from 12,500 to 7,000.
And that was because this year we, were budgeting for those 2 films, and we still have a payment that we'll make next year. But it's much lower, because the majority of the films were paid for this year.
Any other questions?
I have another question.
Okay.
And it's just kind of it's a perspective from my background, which is about marketing and communications.
Mhm.
So, it is harder and harder to reach people, and we have a significant advocacy need in terms of, just everybody in town, whether they're using the library or not, understanding what we're delivering. So I do question keeping the advertising budget or that total, the advertising budget, the same. You're doing some amazing job with earned media. It's fabulous. I feel that we should be budgeting and we should be a little more proactive in getting a message in terms of the advocacy that we're gonna need to do in next year. I would suggest I pay that up.
What page are you on? I guess.
I'm on, I don't know what the pages are. It's under consolidate, general operating communications.
Right.
Here, it's, below this.
Where's 27?
I was looking at, it is on here, where is it?
It's,
Promotional
$500.
expenses?
it's just below the frame, if you keep going down, sorry,
And keep going a bit further.
yeah. So
it's under,
it's the communications, it's the last line of
Got it.
communications. And then, this is going on consolidated.
Yeah, where I am.
There's so many pages in it.
So
The
it
same
looks like,
headings.
So,
Consolidated
Right.
personnel, health and safety, 1,800. Okay, where is it on this page that we're talking?
she's got a cursor at it.
62,125.
Okay,
There, I found it, yeah. Okay. So you're thinking there should be more?
well, I'm not sure, so it's interesting that you've got it higher in 2026.
But you're thinking
Or
it'd be
sorry.
sooner.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I'm
it's
just trying to understand maybe your thinking on that, and I personally just feel that we don't have enough in there.
but advertisements is probably something different, right? You're probably using it if you have to hire someone or.
But you're looking at the total cost.
Yeah, well, there's actually a lot of flexibility in some of these budget lines, and there's a couple where we'll code, there's like one for promotional expenses. Which I actually thought that's what you were talking about.
That's only $200.
Yeah, that one's only $200. We used to pay for an ad in the yellow pages too. I just canceled that recently.
Didn't you say we still have money in strategic planning for 25, even though we're not doing strategic planning in 25?
Yes,
We're not formally doing this in 25.
no,
So couldn't, the advocacy is a strategic initiative.
Yeah,
So if we have that 2,000, I think it was 2,000 you had under,
1,500.
1,500?
and I didn't touch that because that was something. Historically, we always had that rollover of $1,500, except for in the year where we are launching the strategic plan.
Is the strategic plan something that costs significantly and therefore we're in essence saving? And by putting it into reserves if we don't spend it, or?
Depends how you do the strat plan, how much it costs.
Yeah.
We did a lot internally in the past, and we probably would again, because
Yes.
Dodge is the one that led it. But I don't even remember why we had that $1,500 rolling over, but I think it was a requirement of council when it was under council stuff.
Oh,
With-
see, yeah, I didn't fully understand. I just thought it was if something were to come up, we were gonna update something, or at least you had,
I think it's just hanging around.
yeah,
our last strat plan.
okay.
Yeah, so it can get,
But I think there is a need for the money based on what Joanne has flagged. And it could be part of communications, it could be part of advertising.
If, yeah.
What we're talking about is getting our message out and
Yeah.
trying to, get people to understand what we're after and why.
yes. And so
So
if you
you-
had more money for advertising or promotion, or whatever, do you know how you might use it?
Well, we found that paid ads on social media are probably the most cost effective and they reach the most amount of people. We've been experimenting a little bit more with advertising our art openings, but we don't have enough data yet to actually fully say whether or not when we started doing that, it actually increased the amount of people that came. But if you look, like last year, we only spent $182. So I'd be hesitant to beef it up.
Well,
This
I-
number
I would
here, I think
suggest
would
that
be, needs to
I
be
would
reduced.
absolutely use that as my same argument.
Yeah,
Is we have people in town who don't know that there's a library. So.
But we don't
So
have
not
a-
that-
Yeah,
It's
but
not
do we
like-
need-
it's not like we're going to spend billions, I'm just saying, I would say that last year. I could find a lot of people, and I think, and again, you're doing a lot with great orange media, et cetera, and I'm not saying it has to be advertisements, it could be, so to your point, like if the promotional budget gives us more opportunity to have. To sponsor something or be part of a different event or whatever, again, just out in the community, drawing awareness, I believe the number is small, and you're right, and social media, well. I'm not separately about that, but yeah.
I said, what we need is a strategy of how, of what message we want and how, to whom our target audience is, so we can position it correctly. So the reason we haven't got much in there is because we've never really done that, so we're not using that channel in any.
it would be, I mean, this year, I imagine we've spent a lot more.
Well, I've seen you at different, the library represented at different events, like our seniors fair and, the, field tour thing that was just happened.
Aspen Fields.
I saw Mary there at,
Yep.
the one place. And so I think those are good strategies for having us out in the community more. And I don't know what the cost is, if there is a cost, but again, we've never talked about it as a board in terms of what is our communication strategy. I don't recall that happening.
When we do like something like, sure, it would be nice to do more radio ads but it's so expensive.
Socials, I think, the way to go.
But they're like, if we're approaching something like a radio ad, which we did do for the Arts Walk, those are when, having our municipal partners close and supportive of some of our events, we've been able to, like they get discounts that we wouldn't get. They pay for ad space that we don't have. And so again, it's based on their relationship and what they have, how flexible they are within their budget that year. So it's not like it's guaranteed.
Do we pay for, ads or, articles in the review, the Thornbury reviews?
They advertise for us for free.
Oh, isn't that lovely?
Yeah.
And that's read by a lot of the community.
Yeah,
It's scanned.
but it's great.
And is there, I think that Chris, I think you make a really excellent point. Is in terms of an actual communication strategy and sort of a marketing plan. I mean, I think the easiest solution, if people agree, is to say, let's use the strategic planning dollars and you can decide whether it goes in promotion or advertisements or wherever that, you're marketing it for advocacy, for awareness, activity at the library events.
You have to say where in the budget this trap plan shows up now.
It's its own separate
Or,
page.
Okay, I didn't print it, okay.
Um,
yeah, there it is.
Right, okay, so,
oh, sorry, that's not it. This is it.
I'm saying not seeing,
Yeah,
This
the
whole
block.
page.
oh, wait, page.
Yeah.
Oh, that's, okay, there's 1,500. Okay, and this is special events. So why don't we, did you suggest, why don't we move that 1,500, delete it from here? And then put it into whatever you think is appropriate line, give you more flexibility.
Maybe it's outreach.
I'm gonna come back to Kristen's, I think having, like, actually seeing a communications plan for next year from what, or strategy, who we need to, so. Again, if you can move it from outreach to, or from promotions to.
Because we also talked about our own contacts and like, there's multiple ways of getting messaging out. And we haven't really had that conversation.
Yeah.
We've had lots of ideas floating around, but.
But
no.
anecdotally though, for someone to not know that there's a library here, I don't know, like, that's like, I hear the same thing with the pipe band. Pipe band's been here since 1960, you
Yeah,
know?
but if you've just moved here.
Yeah. No.
I say this because these are actual conversations.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, you're on the library board, probably.
And that's,
You know, yeah, sorry, it literally, that's, I just found it shocking as well, yeah.
it is in the welcome package too. There is a welcome package from the town to
Nobody's not reading it.
new people. Well, and that's, yeah, what he's supposed to do, right?
I know,
It's really difficult.
I agree.
And I'm not disagreeing with you, Joanne. Like, I know, no, I'm saying like, anecdotally, I'm comparing, like, I know what you mean. It's, and it's frustrating because it's like, how?
Well, the reality is, well, all media, but Canada's media environment has just disappeared. Right?
Can I jump in
So-
to bring our conversation
Yeah.
back to
Yes.
this? I think we've heard the direction that we want to be able, when be doing more promotion or marketing or something, and it's not just about, it's not about individual programs. It's about the library as a whole and how are we communicating with the community, and it comes to do with our key influencers and stuff too. So for now, can we just keep that idea in mind, because we know we have work to do as a board. And we can always adjust the budget later, but just leave the budget as it is right now.
Yeah, because I think you can take a lot of money from a number of sources here.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll leave the strategic plan.
as is for now.
Okay.
The other, oh,
Can you go ahead?
the other thing, that wasn't mentioned, because I haven't been able to get a quote just yet, I've been trying. Is the ACC has been advocating for adding the gallery to the main sign. So that opened up another conversation where it's, well, if we're gonna update that sign, it should have our new branding on it. So I got some mock-ups and I'm waiting for quotes, but at this point, I have absolutely no idea how much it would cost. It could be $1,500, it could be
Wouldn't we want digital?
5,000.
Yeah. And there's also the signage down at the
Yeah,
museum.
Yeah.
so, cause they're not having, I've seen them out there with their little stools or whatever to change the sign.
Also too,
Oh, that wouldn't be the part that, well, yeah, unless we did have digital, but is there a bylaw?
we do need to stick within the parameters of the sign bylaw.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that information you can get easily.
Yeah,
needed.
Tim's already sent it to me.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, there's ups and downs of having digital
Yeah.
signage too.
It's a bit more,
It's so expensive and it depends, like,
Where the light hits it.
yes, and then what messaging's on there and can people actually read it? Like if they're, I don't know.
Driving by.
so you don't mind, do you send out your pages or?
Yeah, for the most part. I think they had fun doing it.
Okay.
At least they're not shelf reading for 3
Yeah.
hours.
So do you want to do some more investigation into that signage before we?
I do.
finalize our budget?
Yes,
Okay, I have another question, that's to do with staffing. Are you confident, comfortable with the staffing levels you have? I know in the past Sabrina had expressed some difficulty with not having support for her personally and having a communications person. And I'm not sure the role that Franz plays in relationship to all of that. But my question is kind of general in terms of, you've got we have the staffing level here that we need right now.
I would say yes.
Okay,
Do we have
Sunday.
staff? No.
But
Definitely.
there's also the question of where you would put this person.
yeah, that's, yeah.
Yes.
We're no, yeah.
But I did, that's a really great question or topic to bring up, because for 2026 moving forward, I did add in the communications assistant position as part-time. But that's not included in 2025.
And do you not think at some point we're gonna need to add Sunday hours?
I don't. I think that could be part of the strategic planning.
I think that's probably.
That we do.
Yeah, ask that question again later
Okay.
on.
I even thought about with doing like the micro surveys of the blog post. Do we open up that discussion again? But we don't get a lot of clicks on it's not the right way to do it, I don't think. Have we gotten any feedback from patrons? Why aren't you open on Sundays? The museum is certain times of the year, but, or no, wait, the museum's always open on Sunday. But yeah, we've never had anyone come in and,
It's just Paula?
Yeah.
yeah.
I was gonna say, except in council.
But then the flip side of it too is,
Yeah, needs to be.
the flip side of it too is, and I had this conversation a lot in Grey Highlands, I know it comes up a lot in Collingwood, is do your staff wanna work Saturday, Sunday?
And I think that's a philosophical, values system as well, a day off, right?
But then, do you hire more staff so that?
Well, exactly, and so it's constant revolution,
Yeah.
right?
I've
So-
done,
5 days a week starts on Wednesday.
I was very happy when Home Hardware opened again on Sunday.
I think it would be great if the library was open on Sunday, but I think then you'd have to have the staff, like I said, to do the Saturday and Sunday would be part of their 5 week
yeah,
or 5 day a week.
it is very difficult to fill those positions.
Yeah.
Not to say it can't be done, but we even had casual positions in my former role, and hiring for those was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Or you would hire, and then when you needed the person on the Saturday,
They weren't
Sunday, or the
available.
evenings, they were never available.
Take the day off at the last minute.
That,
And there is something to be said for being closed on a Sunday, sort of going, a bit more.
That's what I'm saying,
Day of
values,
rest, yeah.
just close,
Is
right?
there a reason why you?
Sorry,
It's,
that would be open Sunday and not Monday?
I think
But then
that's
you
a
get a
sort of thing
school.
we wanna look at in terms of the strat line, we get some feedback. from
the school, when school's in session, it's
Yeah.
Monday to Friday, and you
That's a
can't
very
not
good
be open on a Monday.
Okay.
So I would argue, and I don't wanna argue with anybody here, but I think we should just,
Yeah.
I think people have adjusted, it's been a while now.
it's the way it used to be. And then
Well, for one
then
thing-
bad habits formed, and we opened on
Yeah,
Sundays.
cause
and
it was
then
open
took
when I
over.
came here on Sunday, but now I think everybody's kind of adjusted to having it closed, you
That's
just
right.
plan your hours different. Plus, there's a lot more electronically available, so if you're looking for a book, you can get
Exactly.
it online.
I say take a trip to New Brunswick. No, everybody's closed on Sunday, and when it comes to the hours of noon to 1 p.m., everyone's closed for lunch too.
When you go to Europe, there's a lot of that.
yeah,
So-
they're closed in the month of August.
Conversation,
Yeah.
Broken within the challenge.
That's it,
Yeah, there's one more thing on the budget, on
Yes.
postage in projection for 2026. I think it's the typo.
Like 23. It was under communications,
Under communications postage,
because we were just talking about, and Joanne said there was an increase.
So, you're right.
Yeah, I saw that.
Thank you.
Costs have gone up postage wise.
I mean, I will make the adjustment, but just so you know, you're not approving that.
Do you know how much a stamp is now?
We can just move it to.
Okay, so I need to fix 2026.
Actually, I know it's pretty much these days, so I'm sending a package to Amsterdam today and I'm afraid of what's gonna cost.
Oh, yeah,
It's
it's so exciting,
Yeah. Absolutely, get a voltage for that.
Oops. Oh, what I understand.
That's why the budget went up for 2026, is because there's 2,000.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't wanna mess up the formula, so I'm just gonna highlight it.
Okay. The other question I want to suggest, the thing I want to suggest is on the, front page, later on, we get around to publishing this thing. We don't really want to show a shortfall that we're losing money every year because we know we have money to cover it. So we need to someplace throw in the rollover, the carry forward, the previous year surplus number to balance the budget.
I agree, we take it from there and put it into here, and you just make a note to say transferred from that.
Well,
Okay.
even in the previous years, we had, which doesn't show up on this, but it shows up on what we have online, is rollover, be it operational rollover, capital rollover. We're handling it slightly differently in this budget, but there was a line very bottom under, it says surplus shortfall. Then there was rollover, which balanced the budget and brought it to zero. And I think we should add that again.
Cause it's giving more.
I think that's where I
Does
had
that make sense?
confusion too.
I think so.
There's benefit in showing that we do
So-
have the shortfall. Sorry.
Well, the shortfall still sits
You're
there.
showing it,
Yeah.
And then you're showing where you're
But
covering.
it's yeah, we're not actually going into the red and then not going to council to say we need this money. We know we're bringing it forward from previous year's surplus.
And because I think it's important though to show that we are having to go from reserves. That, and I think that was my.
Yeah, because you're
My point
making-
earlier is our budget, our expenses are 1.4 million. We're only getting 1.2 from taxes. We have to have our own revenue makes up the difference plus reserves. I just think that that's an important thing to make sure it's clear. So that's why
Because
just clarifying what you were.
I agree with you, Joanne,
Yeah.
because otherwise, eventually the reserve could be gone, and then the budget.
That's when
isn't
we'd have to go
covered.
back.
So can you maybe, can you go to the top and I'll show you what I mean? Because we're all agreeing.
Yeah,
So under here, so we still have all that red line sitting there. We would have a line below that says transfer from previous year's surplus or whatever appropriate language. And then it would simply be equal to the
Yeah.
shortfall number and end up with a zero.
yeah, so that we're,
I wanna say rollover.
it's transfer from, but if it's coming from reserves, to your point, we should identify. that.
Transfer from reserves.
But we should make the note that it's not just willy-nilly or blindly. Those reserves were established for that reason.
And I might even say from previous year surplus,
Yeah.
reserve of.
Mhm.
Sorry, what was the language you wanna see? Transfer from
Well, it's not a reserve because you've got
Previous
reserve.
year surplus.
surplus funds?
But wait, what's the transfer from reserve
Previous
fund
year
above?
surplus.
If it's,
What's the,
Sorry?
what you've got transfer, we've got transfer from reserve fund, 3 lines up.
That's on,
That's for
capital.
capital.
That's for capital.
so that should
Maybe
be,
we say transfer from capital reserve
Yeah,
there, yeah. You could also put another line, this is transferred from operational reserve.
yeah, I mean, I think for.
But it's all the
For our
same.
own tracking, identifying, so we know where it's coming from, by calling it the same thing.
I
so
wonder
it's
if
just-
transfer from the surplus fund. And combine? But then you wouldn't
No, you
understand that it's
yeah.
balancing capital, I see what you're saying.
So, yeah, we need to, so when we, that one you're on now, say, the one that you got highlight, transfer from the transfer from reserve fund for capital. That's a little bit more ambiguous. Doesn't say it's a capital reserve, but it connects it to capital.
I don't think that's clear. Why can't you say transfer from capital reserve fund?
Because in fact, there's no capital reserve fund. You just have a reserve fund.
So if we go back to this though, again, for consistency, so if I'm looking at this document, that I have this one,
Yeah.
and we have a thing called annual surplus reserve.
Mhm.
And if that's where the money's coming from, is there a reason we're not calling it annual surplus reserve?
You can call it that.
Okay.
Is that what you're
Another one.
That was mine, yeah.
So if we're taking those monies from the annual surplus reserve, and then if the shortfall is coming from the open reserve, then we call it transfer from open reserve, I think we should just be really consistent.
I agree.
Well,
This is what that, because every time we this budget's like, which reserve was that? What was it?
Jennifer's, that is Jennifer's language, the annual surplus reserve. That's,
Oh, okay.
so
Yeah,
it's not a town language. So I think, can we just leave it with you to think about
Yeah,
how you
and I'll-
want to
yeah.
those things? But I think the key points are to connect the capital to the capital. And then to make sure we show a shortfall,
and how we're covering
and
it.
then have a cover.
That makes sense.
So. Knowing that we still have a conversation to have around promotional stuff, are we interested in approving this budget at this stage, knowing that we'll probably amend it? And unless you can bring that
To November?
accessibility stuff to November, otherwise our next meeting is January. I'd rather start a year with an approved budget that we amend later.
Yeah,
Well, we have also talked about the signage, you don't have all the
The
fact
signage,
figures on
correct, yeah.
that, so I don't have a problem approving what we have right now. But recognizing we're gonna have to make some changes, but we've also have some allowances and some of these line items anyway.
We've got freedom, yeah. Move it around as we see fit.
Okay, so based on that, I think I would like to have a motion to approve the agenda, say.
Sorry, can I-
Approve the
sorry,
2025 budget as amended. So Joanne, you had something you want to say?
Sorry, I'm just, if we approve this now, does that mean that numbers are going, I just don't want to get into a situation where you have to upload an approved budget that we said is okay and then mess around later.
I won't send it anywhere. And the town's budget process timelines are different, so it's not like we would be holding anything up or,
In our mind, our numbers are number one.
yeah, and they wouldn't include us until their budget's approved anyway.
But I think it's a good point. And last year, I think they approved their budget early April. And that's the timing we want to make sure that when they're approved, ours approves go up, and that gives us time to sort out some of these other things.
So is the town budget from April to March, or is it a calendar year?
Starts in January.
So, but you're not approving.
Oh. It starts like now, but you don't just talk about it until January.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
but
think the new treasurer's hope is to have it approved earlier this year,
that'd be lovely.
but, whether or not that'll happen,
time will come.
yeah,
Cause there's some that are already started,
yeah.
but yeah.
There's
Just the
still,
municipal act dictates that it must be passed by May.
Okay, we're being asked to put a motion on the table here.
Yes, so I've got, the board approved the 2025 budget as amended. I'm looking for a mover and seconder. Chris, thank you. Seconder, Julia Scott, thank you very much. Any other discussion?
Carrie,
All in favor? Good, thank you very much, that's carried. So next, roundtable. Okay. I just wanted to mention that it's, so my plan to step down as chair at the November meeting. So You have things to think about.
How will that process work? Like, will we,
I will run the November meeting. And then the last item on the November agenda will be election of chair and vice chair. And then the CEO runs the election for chair, and then she can either pass it to the chair to run the election for vice, or just stay for both positions. Does that answer your question?
say that last sentence
She can
again?
either run both the chair and the vice chair, or just the chair election.
Oh, well, why wouldn't we do both at the same time?
You can. This year. But the election would happen at the same time. It's a question of whether Jen runs both positions, or the newly elected chair takes over the election for the second. It's kind of
But
minor.
when we started in January, we did that then.
Only because you weren't in place in November.
Okay,
There is no December meeting, yeah.
right. So at the end of our term, it'll be the same thing?
Well, yeah, at the end of our 4 years, hopefully at least one person continues on.
And we have to apply again?
Yeah.
Okay.
And be appointed
Or be
by
interviewed,
council.
maybe, because we wanted to interview.
And can I just get a point of clarification? You're stepping down as the chair, you're not leaving the board, right? Or are you doing both? You're
No,
just-
I'll stay on the board. At
Okay.
the end of my term.
Okay, well, that's good to clarify anyways,
And we
right?
don't have a past chair position,
No.
just informal.
Yeah, I suppose, I'll be hanging around bugging you for sure, yeah.
We need you to hang around for history of, sure, plus other reasons.
Okay, so can we go on to key messages? So I was jotting down some notes. I think probably the main one is the accessibility report. And, noting that it was a joint town library project, and that we're working with the town and sorting out next steps. I'd also mention the MRFA, October 30th meeting. It involves both council and library. That doesn't usurp the town making announcement, does it?
Pardon?
It's okay for us to put in October 30th MRFA meeting, council and board.
It's a joint
Yeah.
council meeting.
It's a joint council meeting, I think the notation would
I
have gone
can,
out,
yeah, I
Yeah,
can,
okay.
but
or confirm with the clerk, I don't know.
I'd also inclined to say that we had 2 reports regarding the IDEA relationship with the town, as well as the provincial and regional leadership that the staff is involved in. And the board commended Jen on her leadership.
budget.
Yep, I guess we should say that we approved the budget to launch 2025 with some discussion still pending on a few items, which might explain why it's not published at this stage. Did anybody have anything else they thought should go into this? Okay, seeing nothing, then, can I have a motion to approve the release of the key messages update for October? Joanne and Joanne. Okay, all in favor? Okay, that's carried. Thank you very much. So we have 2 meetings coming up. We have a special meeting of the board on November 7th at 1 p.m. And that is the key influencers discussion. And the next one, regular board meeting, is November 21st at 1 p.m. Do we also mention presenting to council? Oh, we should put that in the key messages.
Oh,
presenting to council on,
Monday.
Monday.
That may have been in the previous ones, just can't remember.
Do we want to have a December meeting?
I think it's good to have it as a reminder.
Yeah.
results, yeah.
We don't?
Sean said that one.
She did?
Sean didn't.
Oh, we don't have a December board meeting.
Lori, regarding the November 7th meeting, I have a recommendation for a tool to replace.
Yeah, I saw
Jason.
that, I haven't had a chance to look at it, but
Yeah, so we'll just wait until at that time, and then I'll introduce it to people. We don't need any advance.
I think it's more of an operational question. Did you saw the email about the white?
I did, I couldn't, like, I could only view it,
Okay.
but I mean, it seems fine, it's just sticky notes digitally, right?
Yeah, well, I
Essentially,
can show you after the meeting, then maybe that's even better than showing everyone. That's it. It won't take long on that day to get set, but I'll show you before I
okay,
overview, whoever wants to see it.
Great. Okay, that's it for meetings, unless we should be including the October 30th in our list of meetings, in the minutes, I mean. So I think with that, we move into closed session.
I
Okay,
just need a minute to stop the recording.
Don't need a motion to.
I will, yes.
Oh yeah, I'll get that on the recording now.
Okay, and also that we certify that no other business will be occurring following the closed meeting other than just closing the actual open session. So may I have a mover and seconder that with regard to section 16.1 subsection 4 of the Public Libraries Act, that this board move into closed session to address matters pertaining to personal matters about an identifiable individual. Carol and John. All in favor? Thank you, that is carried. We're now in closed session.
Thanks, Franz. Oh, you left already, okay.